Welcome back to the Suzuki X-Star Championship at Road Atlanta here in Georgia. Here's a look at the starting grid for the Motul Superbike Pizzazz Superstock 1000. It's Cameron Beaubier on pole, Tony Elias, and Roger Hayden making up your front row.
Yep, Josh Hayes, Josh Herron, Matthew Skoltz, first Superstock rider there. In sixth is Matthew doing a great job. Bobby Fong, who we saw at Coda run so well. Kyle Wyman, Jake Lewis on the outside of row 3. Then Jake Gagne, Danny Eslick. Sylvain Barry is a scrub from this race. Greg, he had a big accident this morning. They took him away for some precautionary things. Row 5, Cameron Peterson also, I don't think is making the grid. He had a big accident yesterday and wrecked his bike. Bryce Prince, Dave Anthony. Then we got Hayden Gill, Max Flinders, and Anthony Kaczynski to round out our field. Row 6 there. So missing a couple guys, one due to a bike, one due to a little bit of injury.
For more on that, let's go down to Terry Lee. Terry?
Yeah, thanks, Greg and Jason. Yeah, I talked to the guys there about Sylvain Barrier, his team. They took him to the hospital for precautionary reasons, as you mentioned, but it's a good thing they did. They determined there was some internal bleeding. He is in surgery right now as they're looking to repair his spleen. He also broke a couple ribs, and we'll keep communications open with the team and get an update as to when he's going to be out of surgery.
All right, thanks for that update. Heartbreak for the Frenchman and the Scheibe Racing Hayes Brakes team because he was going really great here considering his first time to Road Atlanta. He loved this track and he was going really well. Let's go to the Kawasaki keys to the race,
Jason. He gets better soon. Look, importance of a good start here at Road Atlanta. I can't stress it enough. When you go from this start line, it gets very narrow up through 1, 2, 3, 4. You get off the line bad, you're going to get stuck behind people. Next thing, can Herron run with the top 4? That's a real big question for me because he's done literally no testing. They've got no time on that bike. Those guys went to Coda. They got 2 results, even though you heard him say he qualified 13th, got 2 results. He's here a lot faster. Superstock battle. Who's going to challenge Bobby Fong? That's the question right now. It looks like Matthew Skoltz is leading that train as far as that goes. I expect to see Jake Lewis up there. Danny Eslick, even though he's got to come from a row behind, expect to see him there too. So, and for me, who of the Superstock guys is maybe going to try to go with these front 4? And I think today there'll be 5. I think Josh Herron's got a little something for these guys as far as race pace early. We'll see how that goes as the race wears on. But there's a couple other guys too. Josh Hayes looked very good on race tires. He's looking to bounce back from kind of a disappointing Coda.
Plus, you know, with Josh Herron on that Superbike, well, these 4 guys, the 2 Yamahas and 2 Suzuki front runners, are used to racing with each other and they keep it nice and tidy. But Herron is known to throw it in there. All right, so the red lights go on here. Revs are going up. Clutch is in. Launch control is on, and now we're away, and it looks like a pretty even start from the front row. Tony Elias looks like he got a bit of a launch, but we'll see who bends it into turn 1 first, and it looks like Roger Hayden is going to take it.
Roger's going to get there. Tony's going to be up there into second. Hayes gets out of the seat in third. You can see the battle going up the hill. He's just ahead of Cameron, and Josh Herron files in behind them. This is that little section. The first 5 guys all got away, kind of like we thought they might do. So now you can see those bikes twitching, Greg, as they come down this hill, getting some heat in these tires. Won't be hard, but that first lap is always a matter of just getting a little bit of heat. Now, these Yosh bikes, these 2 Yamahas right behind last year were kind of, we saw these 4 pulling away, and that's where the race was. Let's see if we have a 5th bike going in there, say 5 or 6 laps from now.
So 5 Superbikes lead the way, then Bobby Fong was leading that train. The Superstock 1000, you can see him, different colored number plates, red backing on those Superstock 1000 machines in the Pizzazz Superstock 1000 class. You talk about Bobby Fong because he won 2 races in that class. So here comes Roger Hayden, Yoshimura Suzuki, easily to distinguish with the yellow, or the orange on the front of his motorcycle versus the yellow of Tony Elias, his teammate, and Josh Hayes now in 3rd spot over Cameron Beaubier. But look at the drive that the number 2, Josh Herron's getting. That motorcycle, not as sophisticated electronically as the 4 bikes in front of him.
Yeah, he's got no traction control, he's got no wheelie control on that bike right now. So I know a little bit of what he's running with. Just going down the back straightaway there, I saw him sit up a little bit early behind Cameron in the draft. And right now, Josh Hayes rolling around the outside of Tony Elias as they go into turn 1. I'm wondering, it almost looked like Tony had a problem. They're going to keep an eye on that because Josh up to 2nd. Tony's holding on 3rd there. Josh Herron is up to 4th, just in front of Cameron Beaubier. Josh
Hayes, no stranger of winning races here at Road Atlanta. Definitely a home track for him as he grew up racing in the Southeast some 20-plus years ago. Number 4 guy. I mean, I know he hates me saying it, but that's the reality of it. As Hayes on that Monster Energy Yamaha Looked like he was going to try to make a bid past the Yoshimura Suzuki. Thinks better of it as Hayes up and out of the saddle for a second.
And you can see that. Sometimes it takes these tires a little bit of time to come in, and that's what I've noticed from all of our front runners have got it a little bit loose. We get a little bit further back there. Good looking Anthony Kaczynski coming out of turn 7. And look at how these guys are fanning out. Herrin right now is trying so hard to get in that draft. Tony Elias as they come down in through turn 9, down the hill. Josh was so fast down here, Josh Hayes that is, so fast coming in here. I watched at the top of that hill the other day. Yeah, he's just...
Sorry, Tony.
No, all he's doing, Josh is just kind of being patient. Tony wants to get by, but that's a hard place to make a move, and look what it's done. It's pulled Herrin up alongside Elias. They go down.
Wow.
Josh Herrin up to third. Beaubier is trying to step underneath Elias.
No, that was really close. How close do you like it? Cam Beaubier forces the issue and shuffles the Spaniard back. So now Tony Elias in 5th spot. Josh Hayes still trying to hound and chase down the number 95 of Roger Hayden. So how about this? Right now we have a HelmetSound.com, Western Services Yamaha in 3rd place, and this is how it all unfolded.
Yeah, you can see Elias in turn 10A, 10B messed up a little bit, allowed Herrin to get underneath him, and then opened up the door for Cameron Beaubier. When you're racing in a tight field, you can see Herrin getting bucked out of the seat there, coming on the front straightaway out of that last corner. But when you're in this tight pack, you see Bobby Fong, Jake Lewis, Matthew Skolter all coming across in those Superstock bikes right behind. These front 3, though, have gotten away just a little bit. Tony Elias has got a problem, Greg. I saw him look back earlier, but these front 3 are getting away, and Beaubier will go with them.
So I think the big question right now, looking at Tony Elias, race 1 winner, what's going on with his Yoshimura Suzuki?
Well, here you go. We might understand now why he's fallen back a little bit. He went through the grass at the top, made him late in here, ran back across the grass. Bobby Fong sitting up thinking, all right, got to let him just kind of clean his program up here a little bit. So we'll see if Tony can try to run these guys back down.
Oh, look at Hayes getting really racy right there. He makes a big move on Roger Hayden. Hayden trying to square it up, but no. What an aggressive move by Josh Hayes, and he'll take over to lead. But now Josh Herrin in his 2nd spot, and all of a sudden Roger, just like that, drops back to 4th.
You lose so much time in slow segments, and Rod's trying to fight back in that slow section. Allowed both Herrin and Beaubier to go by. That's also going to allow now Elias to close back up on the back of those guys as he just ran the fastest last split of the 3rd split of a lap. So Elias is going to claw his way back into this, but we got Josh Hayes and Josh Herrin, 2 former teammates for the factory Yamaha team a bunch, 3-4 years ago, and they're back up in the front battling with each other once again.
Well, you're looking at right now, Josh Hayes, Josh Herrin, Cam Beaubier. Between those 3 riders, we have 8 Superbike championships between those 3 riders. Each one of the 3 have at least 1 in their pocket. Hayes with 4, Herrin with 1, and Beaubier with 2. Did I do that right? Did I do the math right?
That would
7.
be 7.
That'd
yeah,
be 7.
I'm not a math major, but yeah, that's 7. But it's good that you're able to do that. And,
I was like,
this guy's clawing his way back. Great Superstock battle back there, too. Hard to study that when you got these 5 guys all battling. These are the ones we want to see. Cameron Beaubier right now in the draft with Josh Herrin as they head down the back straightaway.
I'm going to keep a close eye on Josh Herrin's rear tire because without the aids of traction control, as this race wears on, we're only on lap 4 of 21. A function of the tire is it has to wear out. That's what the tire is designed to do. Josh Herrin, is he going to be able to continue to get great drives with no traction control? We've seen him on lap 1, on lap 2, and so on. Just a little twitch coming from the rear end of the motorcycles. He tries to put a couple hundred horsepower down to the ground through that Dunlop rear slick.
Let's not forget that for the longest time, that guy out front, Josh Hayes, ran very little to no traction control. And I think if you were to talk to him now, it's still very minimal. So for Josh Herrin to get used to a bike with 0 traction control, these bikes are still very rideable, the way the power is put down on the ground compared to where it was 10 years ago or more. These bikes are still very rideable. This Yamaha R1 is very faultless, as you can see with 3 of them up in the front right now. But I expect Herrin to be there for most of the race, at least hounding these guys. And we'll see how the pace of the race starts to drop off. They're still at the 26 flats, 25.9 for Cameron that last lap. So the 2 Yoshimura Suzukis right now, we're going to see if they can try to claw their way back up to these 3 in the front.
Josh Hayes, Monster Energy Yamaha Factory Racing, R1, just like you can buy off the showroom floor. Also Josh Herrin on that HelmetSound.com, Western Services Mean Yamaha, followed by Cameron Beaubier, the #1 plate. So that's 3 Yamaha YZF R1s leading the way from a 2017 model GSXR 1000 RR, the rare model you can buy in the United States from Yoshimura Suzuki pilot Roger Hayden. And Tony Elias right behind them. It seems like Tony Elias is hanging back there we've known him to put in a late charge, as looks like David Anthony. So the 25 rider, David Anthony, in that Fly Racing Motul ADR Motorsports Kawasaki ZX-10R in the pits.
Yeah, he had some problems even yesterday with his teammate Cameron Peterson, so it's a bummer to see those guys out. You can see how tight these guys run it up the hill. They run over that yellow line that signifies where pit entry comes onto the racetrack. These guys get those bikes turned incredibly fast at the beginning. Josh a little bit wide. Josh Hayes, that is, a little bit wide, runs over the paint coming down, and this group is going to start to slowly claw their way back. And I'm glad what you said about Tony, because it's so true. We've seen him so many times where he falls back, Greg.
Yep.
Somewhere about lap 7, 8, 9, he just starts to claw them back in. I'm looking up at the screen right now. Hayes, ran the fastest third split last time, but the fastest guy on the track, 25.6, fastest lap of the race, was Roger Hayden.
So Roger Hayden last time by, but his teammate was pretty close, 25.8. And Tony Elias, and lap by lap, you can see that this group closing up on each other.
Here you go, a little switchback action from turn 10A to 10B. This is a right-hander before they start heading up the hill, and you can see Cameron trying to dial that bike on, stand that bike up off the tire. The thing to look at the bumps, but look at how much he drives that rear tire in the ground and loads it, Greg, as he gets ready to go up over the top of that hill.
And uses his legs to absorb some of those bumps as well.
Absolutely, and Raj has made the move on Cameron up to third. So Raj isn't done here yet either. He passed Cameron going down into turn 10A, and this is all good stuff for the Yoshimura guys to get some extra data for this track. This is going to really help them. There'll be a lot of guys huddled around the computer tonight from that Yosh team.
Big wheelie from the number 2 of Josh Herron coming out of that corner. That allowed Roger Hayden to close up slightly on him. So now a little bit of a gap. As we take a look at a replay here, this is the pass for third, right-hand part of your screen.
This is where Raj Hayden just kind of let off the brakes as they got into turn 10A. Made it hard for Cameron to turn in. That's what's going to make this pass really happen for Raj, and the fact that Cameron just isn't able to get that bike turned in as quickly because Raj is underneath him and does it perfectly.
As no, it looks like a pass for the lead. Is this going to be Herron? Josh Herron. Oh, wow. For a moment, it looked like Herron was going to try to make a pass for the lead. Now we have factory Yamaha versus privateer Yamaha as we head onto the back straightaway. Herron trying to get the power to the ground. And here comes the long drag race to turn 10A as his crew looks on. They knew that this was possible at the beginning of the year.
And he's in the draft well proper this time. He's just going to try to go on the outside of Josh Hayes. Josh Hayes is really good down in this section, though. I talked to him about that this morning and how he gets his body situated to the left before he gets down to the bottom of that hill. His bike gets the least upset of any of the front runners that I watched there for probably 20 minutes the other day when he was on a long run. It was amazing how good he would get into the bottom of that hill. That's going to come into a huge strength later on in the race. You can see that Herron was able to draft it. Now, one thing you pointed out, Greg, just now, you notice how much Josh Herron's bike is wheeling. That could definitely play an effect as the race goes on, just because it's going to tire him out maybe a little bit more than some of the other guys by not having those electronics the way he would like to have them right now. And that's something the team is hoping that they can improve on as the year continues to go here, maybe before VIR. But all this stuff, the Meat Motorsports bike looks incredible. Obviously, Richard Stamboli, Gary, a bunch of those guys, Will Walker, they're all down there working really hard on that bike.
Josh Hayes, 4-time Superbike champion in the class. Monster Energy Yamaha. As Davy Jones looks on for the Yoshimura Suzuki crew, Roger Hayden's main man, as you can see, they're taking a look at timing and scoring. Then they're very interested in the splits as well. As we have Hayes, Herron, Hayden, Bobier, and Elias all now covered up closely. Here's a look at the start.
Both our first 2 rows got off very even, especially the 5 guys that we're talking about right now leading the beginning of this race. But Tony got off to a great start right next to Raj. Raj kind of made it hard for him to turn in. The 2 Yamahas were right there. Herron actually makes a pass going up the hill somewhere there to get himself in. But all 5 of these bikes are glued back together at the front. And there goes Cameron Bobier underneath Raj as they go into the last corner.
Wow, so Bobier fighting back for position. That's for third. And it looks like that Josh Herron may have got a little bit of a gap to cover between himself and Josh Hayes as the fight continues for the final spot on the podium. So Roger Hayden with a nice tight line up the hill as Bobier just can't quite seem to get that motorcycle turned on the brakes.
Yeah, and the thing is these guys are all battling. They're all feeling each other out just a little bit. And we got 5 riders that you can cover with a blanket, which is awesome for our series, being able to see some good tight action. And but yeah, Raj and Cameron are going back. But if you notice how they're passing, Greg, it's done pretty respectful in the sense that they're not creating gaps to where they're not letting that front two just get away. I'm really interested to see if Raj can do anything on that Yosh bike as far as getting in the draft of the Yamahas. And Tony's just kind of still sitting back there, wondering what he's got up his sleeve. I mean, we're not even, we're getting ready to be halfway done with this race, so we still got a ways to go.
So we have Josh Hayes, who I mentioned has won 4 Superbike titles in his career on that Monster and Giamaloop Yamaha. In second place right now, number 2, Josh Herron, who's on that HelmetSound.com Western Services Mean Yamaha. It's also noted that he is the reigning Superstock 1000 champion in the Pizzazz Superstock 1000 class. And this is exactly the way what this series is designed for, is to allow riders to progress through all the different classes. So not only is Josh Herron stepping up back into Superbike where he's won a national championship, but also his team as well.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. The guy who won the 600 Superstock championship is also on Mean Motorsports. He's on 1000 Superstock is Bryce Prince, who's back in 11th place right now, getting used to a whole nother displacement of motorcycle. But the guy in second, and all these guys here have so much experience on thousands. We've got a really experienced 5 riders up at the front right now, and I wouldn't want to bet on anybody right now to take this. The only thing I can tell you is this guy up in front, Josh Hayes, has been here and done that a bunch of times, and he has got his bike incredibly strong in a couple very important places, Greg, and that's going to be something that we're going to have to pay attention to as this race gets into the later laps.
One thing I know about Josh Herron is sometimes he can be a little on the impatient side, and if he has an opportunity to pass on the brakes, he will definitely force the issue. I haven't seen Herron be that aggressive on the brakes, which indicates to me one of 2 things. Either he's being patient, even though he knows he's the only privateer in this group. He knows that he could make a huge impact on this series if he can win this race, or that Josh Hayes is incredibly strong on the brakes and has his Yamaha set up to perfection.
Honestly, Josh Hayes is incredibly strong. As you see Herron just run a little bit wide. Will Roger be able to square him up and get underneath him as they come under the bridge? Did he square him up enough? I think Herron's going to be pretty good on the brakes. It was a small mistake by Herron as they enter 10A. You can see Josh Hayes has pushed the level up when they come into 10A because he is the best on the brakes at the end of that straightaway as of now. It's going to be very difficult to pass him as Raj has a look underneath Herron. But Herron has the tendency to be able to release the brake, and I think that what we're seeing right now is a more mature, more patient Josh Herron as we sit. Let's see now if he goes after Hayes. As you can see that little bit of gap. You see how it created? And look at Josh Herron going right after him to come back. We're going to see a fast first sector here for Josh Herron as he's closed down probably a half a second at the line. Exactly what it was. Half a second at the line. He's closed that gap right on the back of Josh Hayes now.
And look who's right on the back of this group. Back 3 there, battling for that 3rd place on the podium. It's Cameron Beaubier trying to get around Roger Hayden, but there is Tony Elias, who cleaned house when we went to COTA just last week, winning both races in fine style. Now we find ourselves here. Now, Tony Elias won race 1, came off of a 3-race win streak last year, but it was Cameron Beaubier who won race 2 here at Road Atlanta. So right now, those 2 race winners from last year don't look like they're in a great spot to try to win this race as Josh Hayes continues his domination down to turn 10 on the brakes, and also as he comes out from underneath the bridge here and down the hill, how good he looks.
And look how good his bike looks at a 10B. That is, you know, when you get it down to where these last 3 or 4 corners in Atlanta, if you have your bike really dialed in and make it really hard to pass people, what it's going to cause is it's going to make it to where somebody's going to have to do something over aggressive. And I think that Josh Hayes really has that covered. In the last 3 or 4 sections or last 3 or 4 corners of this track. His bike looks so stable under acceleration, maybe more so than I've seen it in a while. So that team's been working really hard down there to get that bike where it's at.
Let me recap what's going on right here. Josh Hayes leads away from Josh Herron, Roger Hayden, Cameron Beaubier, Tony Elias. Bobby Fong's in 6th spot. He leads the Superstock battle, and right now he's got about 6 seconds over Matthew Skolt and Jake Lewis, who's in 8th spot, 3rd in the Superstock 1000. And then we have Kyle Wyman and Jake Gagne in the Superbike class, Danny Eslick and Hayden Gillum fighting it out.
Cameron Beaubier just decided to move underneath Raj as they came up over the turn 5 hill there. He got a great drive. I saw him do it in a lap earlier. He's seeing these 2 guys kind of getting away a little bit. So Cameron's going to get his head down now, try to put in a quick lap. As they came up over the top of turn 5, Cameron was able to get just a little bit better drive and squeeze underneath Raj going into 6.
So then it's going to be a horsepower battle down that back straightaway. So it always is at Road Atlanta. Always a huge story, and Roger's going to be deep on the brakes, gets right and tidy to that apex I don't know if that was Roger forcing the issue or if Cameron just can't get that bike slowed down.
Yeah, no, Raj looks really strong at the end of the back straightaway too. The thing is, it doesn't seem like he's able to get on the back of these guys coming out of turn 7, the front 2 that is, the way that he's able to get on the back of Cameron as they go down the back straight when Cameron's leading. And Raj goes into turn 1 extremely tight. They're trying to make something happen underneath Josh Herron. Look at this battle for Superstock. Bobby Fong with Skultz right behind him, and Jake Lewis, who struggled a little bit earlier this week, and I believe you talked to him a little bit, Greg, but look where he's at on that new 2017 Suzuki. Those guys are battling. We got great battles all the way through.
So that battle actually just a couple tenths of a second difference, raging on only 6 seconds behind this front battle. That's incredible at this late stage in the race with 9 laps to go to have Superstock 1000s only 6 seconds behind the battle in this one. It's still Hayes leading the way from Herron and Roger Hayden in 3rd spot.
And Herron's got the measure of these guys down through the S's, up over 5. It really looks like his bike works well. Problem is that Josh gets down this back straightaway, gets out of 7, incredible. You're gonna look here. I want you folks to pay attention to watch Josh Herron use his legs as he comes up over this curve. See how his butt's off the seat, he's loading those legs and keeping his weight, trying to go forward as much as he can. And it was a great shot by our camera guys to get that shot.
Things tidying up once again, as now we're working on about 8 laps to go when Hayes comes across the line. As long as he can make it down this hill. He's been a demon on the brakes as Josh Herron seems like his motorcycle's getting a little bit upset coming over that hill.
And that's where electronics are going to be a big key. Coming up over the top of that rise, he runs a little bit wide. Look, Roger's got to run on him. Roger's going to try to do something with him here in turn 1. Let's have a look.
So there goes Roger Hayden up in the 2nd spot. He sends Josh Herron back in, and Tony Elias now by Cameron Beaubier. So Beaubier talked about it at the top of the show with Terry Lee. I'm going to hang around and I'm going to see what's what. But at this point, it looks like Cam Beaubier, he's got a lot of work to do if he thinks he's going to be able to win this race because he's got a lot of great riders to pass.
And this is where Josh Hayes pulls away from these guys. Herron's able to go with him, but right now Herron cannot go with him. So this is where there could be a little bit of a break. Roger's got to get his head down, go after Hayes the best he can, but he's going to have Herron wanting to get right back past. Herron really has shown to me he's the only one that can go with Josh Hayes down through the S's.
With a race update, let's go to Terry Lee. Terry, what's going on?
Yeah, Bryce Prince came in and he was shaking his head. He was not very happy about this, but an oil leak in his bike. They noticed it, and I talked to somebody on the team, and he said that thankfully the engine hasn't blown, but they are done for the day.
All right, thanks. So Bryce Prince out of the race in his Superstock 1000 bid as we continue to watch the replay of what happened on this one.
Yeah, Herron just got out of the last corner on the white line and probably wasn't able to put as much throttle in as Tony Elias now has gotten his way and worked past Josh Herron also. This is what we've noticed. Look at as they start coming down the hill. Elias goes really tight as they come down that hill and will make it really hard. Cameron Beaubier now trying to go underneath Herron.
Oh.
So just like that, Herron's gone from 2nd to 5th on 1 lap. And these other boys now are trying to go forward, and that's really helping Josh Hayes try to pull away just a little bit. And I'm looking again in that last segment, Greg. 24.5, 24.8, 24.9. Hayes is quicker by 3/10 of a second in that last split. All through here, they can kind of run with him, but that last segment, he's really good.
So Josh Hayes leading the way on that Monster Energy Yamaha Yamaha, just ahead of a couple of Yoshimura Suzukis. Each one of these teams coming into Road Atlanta with something new to learn. The Yoshimura Suzuki team, pretty much with everything to learn because they hadn't been here. But the Yamaha factory team, they're coming in here with new electronics packages, trying to figure it all out. There's a great opportunity with Moto America, the way these races are formatted. Race number one, Tony Elias goes up the inside. So Tony Elias will take over 2nd spot, at least for the moment, on Roger Hayden. So a little pass right there as we see the riders come up over the hill.
And that's a big surprise pass. That's going to shock Raj that just happened. But Tony Elias is the guy that if he gets close enough to Josh Hayes, he will go into a braking battle. And you can see Cameron Beaubier extremely tight, going by Roger Hayden as they come down into turn 10A.
Yeah,
he's starting to get racy with 6 laps to go.
Yeah, so he got that motorcycle slowed down in turn when he needed to. So Beaubier now getting it nice and tidy as they head down to the bottom of the hill. This is the short drag to the start-finish line as Tony Elias now setting his sights on Josh Hayes. And as they come across the line, Hayes with a 26.8, Tony Elias 26 flat, and Cameron Beaubier 25.9. So Beaubier, the fastest rider last lap around on the racetrack.
And that's not a surprise. This kid is so strong at the end of races. But now, this is where the fireworks are going to start. I've been saying all year, all 4 of these guys get along pretty well. The thing is that the turn 10, that can be where things change friendships, because when you're going down into that corner, it gets to the point where you just got to get up alongside of somebody and block them from being able to turn in. Tony will be that guy that won't be afraid to let the brake off and get himself run underneath Josh Hayes. And we're getting into this section of the track now where Tony Elias, as you see Cameron Beaubier, he is going to go just...
Oh, nice!
That's a great move. He's strong there, but watch Tony come right back at him in turn 7.
There he goes. So back and forth they go, but Tony's going to sacrifice a little on drive as Cameron tries to whack the throttle wide open. The electronics trying to keep up, just a little bit of a bobble. So that's going to give Hayes just a little bit of a gap. Another one as the laps continue to wind down now. 5.5 laps remain in this one. Better breathe, folks, because if you don't, you're going to pass out, because it's going to be like this all the way to the end. Oh, look for a moment if Tony Elias is going to try to make a move. Looked like a bit of a mistake from Tony.
It was a bit of a mistake. Is Cameron going to be able to square him up and go underneath him? I think he's going to try it. He's going to have a go, Greg.
On the brakes, are you kidding me? A little bit of contact. Possibly Tony off the racetrack. So Beaubier forcing the issue again in that corner, and it's going to set Tony Elias all that work back. And now, wow, what a move. And great job by Tony to keep it on 2 wheels.
And here we go. The gloves are going to start to come off. We're going to know about this stuff. I've been saying it for a long time. Cameron Beaubier just decides, I'm going to get to the apex before you are. Lets off the brakes, gets it inside, just enough to push Tony offline. Tony now will run some fast laps. He was very lucky not to lose the front there. That's experience right there. And even Tom Howson's got to react to that one also. So, but Cameron Beaubier is really strong in that last corner. But you can see we've lost a little contact with Heron there in 5th. But look at the gap that's opened up now. Cameron Beaubier is going to try to do something with his teammate as they go into turn 6. The 2 Yamaha boys have started to stretch away.
Josh Hayes last time around dropped another half a second off his time. So 26.3 for Hayes last go around, and Beaubier at a 26.5. If Beaubier takes a look over his shoulder and he sees that small gap back to the Yoshimura Suzuki's, this might be that time where Beaubier goes, okay, let me hang out here for a lap or 2 and see what's up. Or is he going to strike down into turn number 10? Takes a little bit of inside line. Nope, gets on the brake lever and thinks better of it. So, boy, I'll tell you what, man, it's going to have to be an absolute heart pounder on that motorcycle for Cam Beaubier to try to make a move on the last lap if it comes down to that in turn 10.
I think he's going to have a go here.
Oh! No!
It's going to be here, Greg, or turn 6. I think he's going to,
Did he just play his cards too early, though?
I don't know if he's played. I think that was a little bit of a test run for him. But while these two guys are doing that, those 2 Yoshibikes, look at Tony. He is going to be he is fuming underneath that helmet right now. If he gets on the back of those Yamahas, he just ran Raj wide there.
Stood him up.
He's got one thing in mind. He wants to get back on the back of that number 1 right now, and he stood his teammate up to do that. The thing is I think Cameron's pass is going to try to be in turn 6, if anywhere. I think turn 10, he's realized that Josh is pretty good down in the turn 10A area, so it's going to have to come as a surprise move somewhere else.
Right now, I don't think that Cam Beaubier, with his focus forward on his teammate, realizes that there's a 24 coming after him. So here comes the number 1, down into 6, not this go-around anyway.
Josh's bike looks so good under braking. I've watched that bike for the last year or 2 really move around under heavy braking. But look who's right on the back of him. This is going to be a fast lap for Tony Elias, as he's now kind of pushed Raj a little bit wide in turn 1. All he's thought about since he ran off the grass 2 laps ago is, I got to get back on the back of these guys. This is what he does so well. Look at Cameron's going to have another go, but this is going to be a very difficult place for him to do it.
Down into turn 10A and 10B as we switch it back. Now Hayes gets on those binders late, but Cameron was able to drift into the corner a little bit quicker and get on the back. We know they had an incident last year where Beaubier ran into the back of him, or
actually Josh
ran into the back of Cameron, taking
2
different lines.
Yep.
2 different lines last year, and took those riders out. And it took Cameron a long time to claw his way back into that title contention. Here comes Cameron. He looks like he's going to make a move up the inside. Josh's bike protesting under braking, but still gets it down. And here comes Tony Elias.
Elias is going to do it to Cameron in turn 7 if he can't get by Josh. If Cameron can't get by Josh in turn 6, he's going to do it this lap too. Yeah. That's my little prediction. If he can just be close enough coming out of turn 5, he's going to surprise Cameron with a little dive down the inside as they enter turn 7. So
Tony was over half a second quicker, by the way, that last lap.
A lot of things can happen in these next 2 or 3 corners. Right now, he's not quite close enough to do something with him. And Cameron got a great drive. Look at that. Turn 6 is where I said it was probably going to happen, and he's able to just outdrive Josh as they go through 5. And now Josh, here comes Elias. Nope, he's going to think better of it there. He's going to get a double draft from those Yamahas down the back straightaway. Now this is Hayes' first chance to have a look at what somebody else has going into turn 10.
Leading almost the whole way is Josh Hayes. has now come under fire from Tony Elias as Cameron Beaubier made the move up out of turn number 5. And look at Hayes. He's going side by side with Tony Elias. We know Elias is a demon on the brakes, but Hayes also his first test against Cameron Beaubier into 10A and 10B. And boy, it wasn't like Hayes closed up at all. And now Hayes trying to get the drive out. Maybe Cameron saw something in Hayes' bike. Maybe a little bit of wheel spin. Maybe Hayes losing some grip, because Josh Hayes, it looked like he had this race well in hand. But Beaubier has hung back this entire race and made the moves that he needed to make. As now up the inside goes Tony Elias, and he stands Josh Hayes up. So Hayes side by side. So now it's on between Tony Elias and Cam Beaubier after Beaubier did the dirty work a couple laps ago to Tony Elias. Man, this is going to get really chippy here with about a lap and a half to go.
There's no question that there will be a move made on Cameron. Cameron has rode absolutely superb this race. As far back as 5th early on, stayed patient. I think that's what's so amazing about watching him ride, how patient he can be. He knows what his race pace can be. He knows what his tires are always going to be doing underneath him. He's dropped his pace down right now, back into the low 26.2 that last lap. But he's got a little angry Spanish guy right behind him who's going to do everything he can to claw his way back to where when they come across start-finish line, he's going to be able to try to do something with him on this last lap.
So how quickly fortunes turn as now Cameron Beaubier leads from Tony Elias. Tony Elias has been strong on the brakes. That's what he's known for. But Cam Beaubier looks like he's found a little something extra. But look at Tony Elias just reel him back in. The question is, can he get that Suzuki turn? Oh my goodness, Jason, this might be the fastest lap of the race. Tony Elias is trying to get right on the back of Cam Beaubier as we're set for the final lap of this race. So the white flag is flying. This is it for all the marbles here in race number 1 at Road Atlanta. And Tony Elias going for it.
Where's it going to happen? 25.5, like you called, Greg. 25.5 on that last lap. He just wants to get stuck on the back of that guy.
Fastest lap of the race.
And it's going to have to be a spot where it's going to come as a surprise. Now, Cameron probably went across the line there with a +0 on his board. He knows somebody's behind him. He's got to start to figure out that something's going to happen down the end of that back straightaway. My thinking is that Tony's going to surprise him maybe a little bit early, do a little dive bomb move on him. As you can see, Tony's trying extremely hard right now to get close enough to. He'll let the brakes off between 6 and 7 and try to do something with Cameron there, stand him up, slow his progress down the back straightaway, whatever it takes. Let's see if he does that.
So here we go. This is the final time through 7 on this race. Tony Elias is within a bike length, but it looks like Cameron got the gas open a little bit sooner. And we know that Yamaha's got huge legs down the back straightaway. So here we go. This is going to be the braking duel into turn number 10. Can Tony Elias get into the draft? He's there. Is he going to pull out early and try to give him a go? Here he goes. He's up, side by side they go. Tony Elias now with the lead of the race. Can he hold on to it? Here comes Cam Beaubier. Trying to square him up. He goes up the inside. Here we go down to the bottom of the hill. It's Beaubier with the lead. Tony Elias getting sideways. Oh, and it looks like Cam Beaubier is going to take the win. What an amazing race and a victory. 0.2 of a second, the separator for Cameron Beaubier and Tony Elias as Beaubier takes the 3rd race of the season.
Oh, wow. Matthew Schultz is coming across the line to win Superstock over Bobby Fong. Bobby got just thrown up out of the air coming onto that front straightaway. 3rd place is going to be Jake Lewis in Superstock, that is. And, this looks like Kaczynski, big crash.
On the last lap.
That's up in the top of turn 3 area there.
Massive props, so to Matthew Schultz, who's going to take that Yamalu Westby Racing Yamaha to the top. Home track for that team.
Oh.
And oh, look at Kaczynski.
Lost the front real early, way back there in the left-hander, and did a lot of sliding on the grass. Hopefully he's not hurt. Doesn't look like he is, which is good. And what an amazing race. Boy, if it gets like this for the whole year, it's going to be fun to watch these guys all battle with each other. It'll be interesting to see the comments even after this race. But it's going to take good, hard racing like that, Greg, to win this championship this year, because we got too many good riders and too much good machinery to see anything but that.
Fastest top speed for Cam Beaubier, 184 miles per hour. Do that in a draft. So it's Cam Beaubier, Tony Elias, Josh Hayes, as we saw quite a battle in the last 2 corners of this race on this racetrack at Road Atlanta. 0.287 the margin of victory. Here's a replay.
And Tony gets in there really fast. You can see here what ends up happening is he's not not able to turn the bike as sharp as he would like. The bike's going to run out a little bit now. If you look at the angle of Cameron, he's got a little bit more entry to open up. He's going to square the bike back up underneath Tony. Tony's trying his best to get the power to the ground, but he's on the edge of the tire, Greg. Now he's squared up Cameron, but where it gets really exciting is down here, because I know Elias wants to pay him back so hard for earlier in that lap. And, you know, Cameron didn't do anything wrong, by the way, in that earlier pass, but these two guys put on a great show. Yeah, our perspective is he let off the brakes and got to the apex of the turn, and we've seen Tony do that plenty of times. Those guys are just racing very difficult, very hard with each other, but that's a big statement by Cameron Beaubier today that he was able to take this win. That's a big win for him.
So Cameron Beaubier takes victory here at Road Atlanta race number 1. And the good news for the Oshimura Suzuki team and Josh Hayes, they get to do it again tomorrow. Wow, what a race. Less than 0.3 of a second the margin of victory in this one. It was quite a battle between Cam Beaubier and Tony Elias. On the other side of this break, we're going to hear from them, so don't go anywhere.